Hi everyone, Byron Martin here at Logee's Greenhouses, and it is spring here and in the greenhouses. And what we have right in front of us here is our leptospermum tree. This is Leptospermum scoparium, ruby glow. It's been in our collection for many years. It was originally growing when I was very young in our fern house, which was the original greenhouse that started the whole Logee operation. And my brother and I moved it in here in the early 70s and placed it on the ground where it took root into the soil in the greenhouses and turned into this beautiful tree. Now this particular plant is known as New Zealand tea. It's a native of New Zealand. It is also the plant that the bees make manuka honey from. And on warm days in the late winter and early spring, the honeybees actually come in and work this. The reason they called it New Zealand tea was because the sailors would stop in New Zealand and get the foliage to make tea out of, which contained vitamin C and thus prevented scurvy. This tree, as I mentioned, is quite old, and you can see here the beautiful bark that comes along with that in its twisting nature. As far as a container plant, it does quite well. It needs an acidic soil, that's really important, and it prefers cooler temperatures, although even 60 degrees it will grow fine. The plant actually can be used for topiary work. We grow standards out of it where it can be sheared as long as the shearing is done not too late in the season, and it makes a beautiful display that way. Behind me I have an interesting plant here. This is a Trichocereus hybrid, which is the flying saucer, and they're not very long lived, so this came into flower just yesterday. You can see it's in full bloom right now. Really a beautiful thing. Many of the cacti have gorgeous flowers like this, large petals and many colors to them. This is certainly a surprise for us. And this plant actually, interestingly enough, spent its winter in another greenhouse where it got really neglected in terms of watering. And that's what actually helped it initiate its flowers in such beauty. We're going to go on and I'll show you some other things. Here's another grouping of plants that actually gives us very high mileage in terms of the amount of flowers they put out, and also gives us almost continuous bloom throughout the year. This is a butylon, and this is a very large, probably the largest flowering one in cultivation, called Victoriter, which is this orange with a yellow center. And really the plant has never been out of flower since late summer when it was pruned. It's gone through the wintertime, come into this greenhouse and been placed here, and then you can see it's full of buds. And this will continue until the plant gets too large for us to deal with, and then we cut it back severely. Also a very high light and also heavy feeder in terms of its nutrient needs. Another plant that's used a lot in tropical horticulture is the plumbago. This is auriculata. The variety is imperial blue. It's a little deeper blue than the original plumbago auriculata. And we do see a slowing down and sometimes a stopping of bloom in the depth of winter, but you can see it's come back into bloom. There's buds forming here, buds forming up there. And the only thing that will cause this to go backwards is some pruning shears when the thing gets just too big. If you didn't do anything to this, this would not stop flowering until we hit the short days of fall again. There's two great plants for full bloom, constant bloom, and good sunlight throughout the year. Next we have a bougainvillea I'd like to show you that's really in its glory. And as you can see, they really come into their beauty, the bougainvilleas, at this time of year. This is a variety called Helen Johnston, which is actually a dwarf or very compact form. And bougainvilleas tend to be seasonal in terms of their bloom, so they have a springtime and a fall blooming. Summertime not so much, and you can see this really went to town in the springtime. And bougainvilleas really are, again, highlight plants. They love dryness, so drought stress is great for them. That means letting them flag or wilt a little bit between waterings. This goes on for many, many weeks, almost maybe 2 months do we see this in flower. It's been hanging here now for at least a month and in full bloom. And eventually it'll start shedding some of its flowers. But a great plant where you need a hanging basket with color in a sunny situation. We have another interesting plant here, which is Fijoia or Aca. Its name's been changed, Saloiana, which is the pineapple guava. And it's in the myrtle family. That's the Myrtaceae family. You can see this is our tree right here that grows up, and it's covered with blooms and buds. And the interesting thing about it is the fruit is very delicious, but so aren't the flower petals. So you can take a petal like that and eat it, and it's as sweet as candy. This plant here will set fruit, and we'll have these oval-shaped fruit, big as a goose egg or so. They ripen with an aromatic fragrance to them. You let them get a little bit soft and you eat them and they're delicious. And it's very easy to grow. It's incredibly drought tolerant. You can like forget to water it for a long period of time and it comes back to life with a good drink. The plant actually needs to get to be a fairly good size before it starts to bloom, but a great plant for containers and for tropical fruiting plants. So thanks for watching, and stick around for part 2 where we'll look at some more amazing plants here in our newly renovated greenhouse.